Sobering images coming in there from Nepal. Good evening. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Padmaja Joshi. Is there an effort to try and deliberately stoke such violence, such unrest in this region, especially in India as well? On that question, the buck stops here. It's been a tumultuous few years for this region, to say the least. 2022 Sri Lanka, 2024 Bangladesh, and Nepal cut to 2025. The sight of people storming into the citadels of power have become far too common, leading many to wonder if this is just a coincidence. In July 2022, Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa agreed to resign after protesters set the Prime Minister's private home on fire, chased the president from his residence and took to the streets in thousands. The anger was fueled by months of frustration over an unprecedented economic crisis. Then Bangladesh. Months of student protests there ended with Sheikh Hasina being deposed and then forced to flee her country in order to save her life, even as her residence was overrun by hundreds and hundreds of such student protesters. In 2024, that happened. And now we look at Nepal with the same sense of deja vu. For the last 36 hours, the Himalayan kingdom has been consumed by violence, but things took a turn for the worse today. Young Nepalis had taken to the streets over complaints about corruption in government and the blocking of social media. Viral social media content questioned the Nepali politicians' Nepo babies who dressed in imported clothes and traveled to foreign vacations, even as the average youth struggled for an education and jobs. When various groups took to the streets yesterday, the police opened fire. 19 people died, and since then, there has been no looking back. The government, trying to buy some time, even agreed yesterday to lift the ban on 26 social media sites that had been imposed earlier, but it was to no avail. The crowd of protesters soon metamorphosed into a bloodthirsty mob. Politicians and ministers, past and present, were attacked in their houses, stripped, beaten, almost lynched. Former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Kanal's wife was burnt alive when their house was set on fire. Nepali Congress chief Sher Bahadur Deuba had to be carried out of his house half dead after he was beaten to within an inch of his life by the same mob that attacked him and the current Nepali Foreign Minister Arzu Rana Deuba. Finance Minister Bishnu Prasad Paudel was also severely assaulted on the streets, then chased down half naked in a stream. The army has now appealed to the protesters in Nepal to step forward for talks now that the Prime Minister and President have both tendered their resignation. The question, though, is anyone listening?
The kind of visuals that are coming on your screens inside the Nepal Parliament, thousands of youth have come together in this youth uprising for a complete regime change, for a complete democratic restoration of their rights, and they are saying that economically Nepal was weak. Otherwise, Nepal had been very weak only because the Prime Minister and his people were having a lavish lifestyle, were having a VVIP lifestyle, but the common people in Nepal, the youth, were suffering continuously from the kind of policies that he had. And this is the latest that we are getting from the Nepal Parliament, even as the fire rages inside. It's a victory for youth. It's a victory for the transition into democracy and against corruption that is eventually going to pave the path for a new government, for a new governance led by youth here in Nepal, for a new Nepal to be created, which actually gives them the basic rights that they demand for the people. They're excited, they're happy. There are victory marches that are also being organized. A lot of Nepalese flags also in this entire process. You can see the Nepal flag out here. Kya khush hai aap? Jo hua?
बहुत खुश है आज.
KB Sharma Oli has fled to Dubai. That is the latest that's coming in. So people are very excited. They're holding the Nepal flag continuously. People are happy, excited. They're enjoying and they're celebrating this moment in history. They're trying to wave the national flag out here. You can see the thousands of people. So this is the reality of the celebrations that are coming in. People celebrating all across, people demanding justice, and they see that this is a victory for them. Completely, you can see the sea of people, a complete sea of people celebrating on the NDTV cameras live here inside the Nepal Parliament. An unprecedented development of 2 days long protest, deadly protests in which a lot of brutal force was used against the people. And now people here are celebrating and demanding that a new governance system which is against corruption should actually come back.
So the protesters are demanding a new government, but who is going to take that decision? Is anyone in control? Who is the leader of this entire group? Is it still a group, or has it now quickly descended into a mob? There are efforts now to try and calm the situation, but despite that, there is still chaos on the streets. The chaos continued unchecked and found an echo, surprisingly, in India as well. Believe it or not, some people in India were busy wondering if after Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, it would be our turn next. No one really said it explicitly, but the hints were there. Many people said, oh look, here a 75-year-old dictator is refusing to let go of his throne. Just like in Nepal, there are other countries who could quickly come within the ambit of such protests. Some people even said that just like Nepal and Sri Lanka and places like Bangladesh, when authoritarianism runs riot, then people have no other option but to rise up in revolt. In fact, some people even seem to gloat, even seem to wish that what was being seen in Nepal today would be replicated in India tomorrow.
नेपाल के हालात बिगड़े नहीं है, सुधरे हैं. अगर एक देश का युवा मिलके भ्रष्टाचारी नेताओं के खिलाफ आंदोलन करता है और भ्रष्टाचारी सरकार का तख्ता पलट करता है तो बड़ी बात है. इसका मतलब ये है कि उस देश का युवा जागृत है. उस देश का युवा भ्रष्टाचारियों के खिलाफ आवाज़ उठाने के लिए तैयार है. तो मैं तो इसको एक अच्छा और शुभ संकेत की तरह देखूंगा.
बड़ा कष्टदायक है, विजुअल देख के डर लगता है. मेरा इतना ही आग्रह रहेगा कि हमारे पड़ोसी मुल्कों में जितनी शांति रहे, भाईचारा रहे, उतना ही भारत के लिए भी अच्छा है, उन देशों के लिए भी अच्छा है. और नेपाल से हमारे केवल रिश्ते दोस्ताना ही नहीं, एक परिवार का हिस्सा है. बहू बेटी, रोटी और बेटी का ये संबंध जो भारत और नेपाल का है वो किससे छिपा नहीं है. इसलिए हम चाहते हैं आगजनी हिंसा ना हो, सामान्य हालात हो.
But the question now facing Nepal is what happens next, and the question facing India is why did it happen in the first place? Should we be connecting the dots between Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Nepal and see some common thread running through them all? Is there an effort to try and create the same anarchy in India given the apparent glee in some quarters? Joining us today on the show, we have Taranath Behel, senior journalist, joining us from Nepal, Karan Verma, political analyst, Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Vivek Srivastava, political analyst. But Mr. Behel, I want to first ask you, who is behind these protests? Is there any identification now of how things suddenly went so completely out of hand?
Actually, the protest organized by a very small group of Gen Z. They themselves called, we are the young representatives. Just 5 people actually make a group in social media, and they started the campaign against the corruption and the demanding to restore the social media ban. So that is the 2 major demand. They started through the some social media platforms, and then the mass came in street on their request. Now we cannot see any leader, and we cannot see any organized group of the protesters, leaders. Even in Bangladesh, there is some student leaders who are known in publicly. But in Nepal, the Gen Z group, there is some name we have, but there is no such a known public figure from the Gen Z as well.
But Mr. Behel, a lot of people seem to be suggesting two names are being mentioned. One is of Sudan Gurung and the other is of Hami Nepal. And there are suggestions that Hami Nepal may be funded by some organizations in America. How much truth is there to all of these suggestions?
Yeah, look at the one is the Sudan Gurung you already mentioned. He is working in a small NGO funding by Western, particularly American donors. USAID and others donor agencies as well. That's a health-related that organization. Background is working for the rural health. And other one guy is also, his name is Neeraj Dhungana. He is affiliated as a entrepreneur, a small IT entrepreneur. They both we know currently. And other three also is engaging on some type of organization. But they are not representing their own organization or profession, but they voluntarily make a group in social media and started these campaigns. So we cannot directly, we cannot see a direct link to any such social organization as well. But look at in yesterday when they started the protest in the Maitigar Mandala, which is a place of the central, front of the central secretariat. In the mandala, that organization provided the water and other kind of voluntary service to the protesters. So that kind of engagement we are seeing. Yes.
What is the level of association of Hami Nepal, of Sudan Gurung? Interesting that you should say he works for an organization which gets funded, it gets USAID funds as well. Now, which is perfectly legal to get USAID money, but a lot of questions have also been raised given what has happened in the region in the recent past. Mr. Sajjanhar, would it be too much of a conspiracy theory to say that all of this can't seem like a coincidence? That first you have Sri Lanka, then you have Bangladesh, and now it's the turn of Nepal. And coincidentally also, each time leaders of these countries have said there is pressure on us, there is external forces that are trying to destabilize this country, and that eventually happens.
Yeah, thank you very much, Padmaja. And, you're right. These three countries, you forgot to possibly mention Pakistan, because there also Imran Khan had charged that, it was America which had been trying to destabilize his government. And, one of the middle-level officers, Donald Lu, that he was the one who was involved in all this. So, all around us, you see, these are the sort of things happening. But I think if you were to look a little deeper, and I would imagine that, as far as Nepal is concerned, it's still too early, just 2 days. We really need to go deep down into it, see what is the role of the deep state that has been mentioned as far as Bangladesh is concerned. There are huge similarities, Padmaja, as you mentioned, between Sri Lanka, between Bangladesh, between Nepal, because in all the countries, it's the young people who came out on the streets. And then, what the images that we witnessed, we are seeing on the TV screens on your show in Nepal, they are reminiscent of the images that we saw also in Sri Lanka, when they attacked the president's house. But of course, it has been much more violent here in as far as Nepal is concerned, the manner in which the looting and the arson and the beating up of the senior ministers and even former prime ministers and one of the wives. So, it has been very, very violent. But let me sort of, just say that as far as Bangladesh is concerned, the Americans were opposed to Sheikh Hasina, and they made no bones about it. I visited Bangladesh several times, and, on occasion when I used to meet the American ambassador and the Western ambassadors, they would always say that, it's not democracy in Bangladesh and we need her out. You would remember that Sheikh Hasina was not even invited for that meeting of democratic countries in Washington, D.C. that took place. Sri Lanka had other problems, after COVID-19 and the policies that they followed. There were shortages of medicine, of food, of energy, of fertilizer, of everything. So, there in terms of the people's disaffection and the problems the economic problems, dissatisfaction, that was huge. As far as this Nepal is concerned, it seems to have been, unless we sort of, get more into depth and, some more evidence comes out of it, it seems to be, and in Bangladesh, there was a number of people, more than 300 people had died by the time 5th of August when Sheikh Hasina left. Here, it was literally overnight. You have 19 people killed, and, the extent of violence, it really grows up. So there are similarities, but there are also differences. And here, meaning ostensibly, the social media app ban appeared to be the
Tipping
trigger.
point.
It was not the real reason. It was the trigger. It was the last straw on the camel's back that broke the camel's back. And then the real issues were the day-to-day economic issues of corruption, of misgovernance, of unemployment, of inflation, and of capturing of the judiciary by the government, by sort of revolving door systems. Mr. KP Sharma Oli has been Prime Minister 5 times. He gives his place to Prachand Dahal. He gives his place to Sher Bahadur Daiba. So, the opposition is completely locked out from any, taking part. And all these luminaries are busy protecting themselves and the others.
So there was definitely a tinder box, but did somebody put a match to it, and was it done in a calculated fashion? That is the answer that Nepal will have to look for. But what is truly stunning, and I want to bring in Vivek Srivastava and Karan Verma on this. Vivek Srivastava, I mean, it's unbelievable that we live in a country where we have people looking at tragedy in our neighborhood and saying, wow, this is going to happen to India next, because we are exactly like Bangladesh and Nepal. We have corruption, we have capture of institutions, and tomorrow India is going to be a replica of Nepal. What kind of cussed existence do people need to have to actually wish misfortune upon their own country?
Nobody is wishing for misfortune. That we are worried that a misfortune might occur if you don't wake up in time. That is the only thing. You had a farmers' agitation where 800 farmers died. And the Sikh farmers were called Khalistani, and people like me who supported were called Naxalites. I was called a Chinese agent, Rahul Gandhi Chinese agent, Sonia Gandhi Chinese agent, secret MOU with China. And now the Prime Minister is going over there, so Hindi Chini bye bye. So this is the way you treat your opposition. Okay? And then
by the way, you do know that the communists were called Chinese agents, not by any media or in the recent past. They were first called Chinese agents by the Congress, who, by the way, also arrested them for being Chinese agents. So anyway, let's not go down that road. The party that you love and revere and partner with these days was the first one to call you Chinese agents and jail you for it. But anyway, let's come to the present. You're saying it's not glee, it's worry. You're worried that India is exactly like Nepal and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh.
Absolutely, you are going in the same way. You don't want to discuss, you don't want to talk. सब कुछ अच्छा है, सब बढ़िया है, नौकरी है, पैसा है, पढ़ाई है, सब बहुत अच्छा जा रहे हैं. 4th largest economy है, 80 करोड़ लोगों को खाना खिलाना पड़ता है. फर्क क्या पड़ जाता है? हंगर इंडेक्स कोई मायने नहीं रखता, हैप्पीनेस इंडेक्स कोई मायने नहीं रखता. डिबेट मत करो, ऑपोजिशन वाले बेवकूफ हैं, इन्हें कुछ नहीं आता. All that matters is election, and if we win the elections, that means we are right. Mr. Oli won the election. The government in Bangladesh won the election. The government in Sri Lanka also won the election. But all of them had to go, and all of them had to go because they did not listen or heed to the voice of the people. And that is what we are worried for. Please listen to what the opposition is saying. Please listen to what the people are saying. If we say there is something wrong with the EVMs, kindly don't brush off. If we say...
One would love to listen to what you're saying. The problem is you've been saying it for the last 11 years. It's almost been like a daydream where you have said, this is the moment where India is going to capsize, when India is going to collapse into a burning heap of nothingness. Unfortunately, for the last 11 years, your fondest dreams have not come true. So maybe that's the reason nobody takes you seriously.
मोदी बहुत अच्छा है. मीडिया ऑपोजिशन का क्या करोगे सुन करके?
Okay, Karan Verma, a bit of crystal ball gazing by Vivek Srivastava and his ilk, and they have decided that we are going down the same path, and if you continue to smirk at him, one day you will be sitting in the middle of the chaos that Nepal is witnessing today.
So my commiserations with comrade Vivek, because today is a sad day for him, because his comrade Oli has been ousted, and you know, Padmaja, it's poetic justice, or call it whatever. I mean, my heart goes out for what's happening there for the innocents, but those who always talk about staging coups and digging graves, unfortunately sometimes fall in that. This was the typical communist manifesto which has unfolded, unfortunately, on the streets of Nepal. And for Vivek Srivastava to say that this can happen and listen to the opposition, of course we are listening to the opposition. The opposition, leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, is saying we want to fight the Indian state. That is what he is saying. He goes abroad and he says, why are you not intervening in our country? Democracy is dead overnight. This is the kind of statement Rahul Gandhi is coming up with. Modi घर से निकल नहीं पाएगा, 6 महीने में लोग उनको डंडा मारेंगे. This is the language you are using. This is what the opposition is saying. Having said that, Padmaja, today is a day for India to reflect in the sense that democracy is a cherished individual. Unfortunately, we have an opposition that takes pride, that laughs over it, as you rightly said, that says, oh, this can happen in India as well. Saket Gokhale talked about it. IP Singh talked about it. Mainstream political leaders are tagging Narendra Modi and Amit Shah saying this can happen. Thank God we have a robust economy. Thank God we have an economy that grows at 7.8%. Can I speak, please? Padmaja, please.
No, but you never know when the
Vivek
tipping
ji,
point
yahan pe
is.
anarchy mat
Karan
kariye,
Verma,
please.
to be fair, you never know when the tipping point is. Sheikh Hasina thought that she had won the elections as well. But the opposition boycotted the elections. And we are today at a point where our opposition is also saying that we may just boycott the Bihar elections. You may think that you are sitting comfortable, but you never know when people are at that tipping point. It could be the last straw.
Absolutely. I am not sitting comfortably. I am saying be very, very careful with regards to this opposition that wants to fight the Indian state, that wants to cast aspersions on the election commission.
If the Indian state has
every
become,
single case,
has
still
become the
Vivek
captive
Srivastava on this
of the
channel
present
said
regime,
the EVM
Okay, is that the blueprint, Vivek Srivastava?
44 appeals. 44 appeals. He's lost in the court. 44 appeals on EVM he has lost. He has not given a single complaint, the BL agents. And then also he has the audacity to say vote chore. So these people want to undermine our institutions.
Is that the blueprint you're trying to build in Bihar?
Dismissing it as a
Vivek
conspiracy
Srivastava.
theory.
Is that
This
the
is
Bihar
not a
blueprint?
conspiracy theory anymore, Pradhaja.
Don't take us seriously. If you try to brush us off, if you manipulate elections, you cheat the people. राहुल गांधी ने बोला 25 सीटें अगर सही होती तो ये व्यक्ति प्राइम मिनिस्टर नहीं बनता. राहुल गांधी ने बोला आप तहकीकात नहीं करेंगे, एफिडेविट चाहिए, आपको हर चीज में एफिडेविट चाहिए, तो आप मत सुनिए कंप्लेन, आप मत सुनिए, आप रहिए हाई हैंडेड, आप रहिए अपनी दुनिया में, और हम भी संघर्ष करते रहेंगे, लड़ेंगे हम आपसे और रोज लड़ेंगे, और जरूरत पड़ेगी तो बाइकआउट करेंगे इलेक्शंस का.
No, Vivek Srivastava, other than your newfound Che Guevara model, what exactly do you think that we have in common with these three countries? Much as a lot needs to be improved, you had, like the ambassador just said, you had severe shortages in Sri Lanka. You have a lot of corruption in Nepal, which the people have repeatedly pointed out. In Bangladesh, you had economic difficulties, and in India, on the other hand, you live in a country which is on its way to become the third largest economy. What possibly is the commonality that you're looking with in these three countries?
I don't agree with you. I'll tell you, your so-called great economy, third largest, fourth largest, first largest, आपका सारा wealth 10 या 12 families में concentrated है. 80 करोड़ लोगों को आप राशन देते हैं तब वो खाना खाते हैं. 5 किलो राशन आप 80 करोड़ लोगों को बांटते हैं. They can't even earn for themselves. आपको 6,000 रुपए हर किसान को देना पड़ता है, तब वो सस्टेन कर रहा है बड़ी मुश्किल से. 15, 20, 25 बीघा जमीन है, उसमें 50,000 रुपए की सालाना इनकम है इस मुल्क में. अडानी अंबानी जितने भी हैं, आपका चैनल है इसलिए मैं स्पेसिफिकली बोल रहा हूं, मैं बड़ा बोल्ड आदमी हूं. जितने इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट हैं उनके कितने लोन माफ करे गए इसके बारे में तहकीकात हो, लेकिन वेलफेयर स्टेट बनने में आपके पेट में दर्द होता है. हर चीज में प्रो अमेरिका लाइन आपने ली. आप पैलेस्टीन के खिलाफ चले गए, आप इजराइल के साथ खड़े हो गए, आपने करा क्या है?
I have to say that in addition to being a revolutionary and bold, you're also a very humble man, continuously conferring upon yourself the title of being a very bold person. But anyway, I think Ashok Sajjanar wanted to respond. He was smiling at your suggestion. Is there any commonality with the path that India is on and that our neighbors have been on, which have led them to this particular crisis?
Yeah, with all due respect to our panelists here, I think India is doing remarkably well. It's 242 million people have been brought out of the poverty line, and these are figures of the UNDP. And you speak about the economy, etc. These are all figures that are available on the by the international media. And Indian economy is doing well. India's influence has grown greatly, hugely. India is sitting at the high table in global affairs. And I think as far as social mobility is concerned, as far as education levels, as far as health is concerned. I think in all these criteria. So India is a sui generis case that, with a democracy, like people also have said, India has proven that that democracies can deliver. And in India, democracy has delivered. It has brought safety, it has brought peace, and I think it has also brought political stability. And political stability really gives that possibility for growing, whether it is economically or it is socially. You look at the infrastructure, as you said, Padmaja, very rightly, I agree with you. We have a long way to go. It's not that we have arrived at the final destination. But the progress that we have made over the last 10, 11 years, I think that gives us great confidence that we are well on our way, because we are talking about the ambition and the aspiration is Viksit Bharat 2047. And that is what we have to define for ourselves.
And sir, if I may add to that, the one thing that really stands out, that all of these countries, there was an attempt by various forces to try and make them the playground for their own ambitions. In the case of Sri Lanka, it happened, China. In the case of Bangladesh, America. In the case of Nepal, again, there was the question of China trying to, trying to bring them under their influence. India, that possibility doesn't exist. Karan Verma, then I'm coming to you, Mr. Dehal.
So, Padmaja, we've seen small experiments that were carried out in the CAA protests. What happened? The Delhi riots that happened after the Shaheen Bagh protests. So, we have to be very careful. Gone are the days when people like Vivek Srivastava used to dismiss this as conspiracy theories. We've had people like George Soros who've said that I've kept $1 billion aside to topple regimes. Toppling regimes and staging coups has been an instrument of their state policy. Vivek Srivastava can laugh it off, but we've had elements like Salil Shetty, like others, Harsh Mandar, who've been part of the National Advisory Council, been a part of Rahul Gandhi's core think tank. And they've also been a part of the Soros gang. So these things cannot anymore be dismissed as conspiracy theories, as you rightly said in the beginning. This happened in Sri Lanka, this happened in Bangladesh, this has happened now in Nepal. We'll be fools if we live in our fool's paradise. We have to understand there are fault lines which these people want to exploit. So yes, we have to be careful. Thank God we are growing at 7.8%. Thank God the inflation is just 1.55%. Otherwise, people like Vivek Srivastava would have made an issue out of it.
I'll tell you. Mr. Soros is 95-year-old, a very old man sitting on the wheelchair, almost half dead. आप डरते रहिए बैठ करके यहाँ पे अपनी गलतियों को समझिए. Where you are going wrong, you are again wrong.
His family is carrying forward. आप carry कर रहे हैं उनकी legacy.
When the UPA in 2004 came to power, Rahul Gandhi could have manipulated his will to become the Prime Minister. Mrs. Gandhi could have done it, they did not. They honored the public sentiment that a person with Italian origin should not be the Prime Minister. आप उनको Chinese agent कहते हैं. आप कहते हैं राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन में पैसा लेके चाइना के साथ हम देश तोड़ेंगे. वो डायनेस्टी जिसने जो 70 साल यहाँ पे रहे, who were easy losers. कभी तीसरा मोर्चा आई, कभी वीपी सिंह आए, कभी वाजपेयी आए. But the Congress, one thing good about it is, I'm not from the Congress party. They were willing to lose elections, willing to sit in the opposition, and they were willing to let somebody else. और यहाँ देखो 11 साल से क्या हो रहा है?
They were willing to lose elections. I thought the elections were rigged against them. You have to make up your mind. Right now, you said that they were generous enough to lose elections, whereas all this while you've been saying that they were fixed, that they were made to lose elections. There's an inherent hypocrisy in what you're saying.
They accept defeat. Please. They were gracious enough to accept defeat.
Padmaja, can I ask one small question?
Okay, one question, Karan Verma, then I really want to go to Mr. Dehal. Yes, one small question.
Yeah. Vivek ji, in all honesty, there was one time when democracy was under threat in our country, emergency. Did the Communist Party support the emergency? Yes or no? Sach bata dijiye zara.
Yes.
Do you support the emergency?
We supported and we feel it was the right thing to do at the time. American money was coming and the Trump could have done something wrong.
Padmaja is exposed.
So we did. So what is exposed in this? That is our stand.
Okay. He's very proud of it. Let me bring in Mr. Dehal at this point. What happens to Nepal next? What is the roadmap? Because right now you still have a bunch of people who are largely leaderless. Who will represent them in talks, if any? What do you see happening over the next few days, Mr. Dehal?
There is no any clarity on that question, because recently I got information from the President office. The Nepal Army make a pool between the President office and the protesters leaders, and the protesters leaders just presented the 5 points, and in that points they are demanding a neutral civil government, but they are not proposing any person for that, and our constitutional provisions does not allow to make a such civil government through the constitutional process. The parliament is still there is there, so we cannot go to parliament as well. The protesters also not demanding to dissolve the parliament, but they are opposing to forming the new government through the political party.
Okay.
So the picture is not clear yet.
So let me
the
ask
negotiation
you this.
is started.
What about Balensha?
If informally the negotiation is started.
The protesters want a complete overhaul, but a name doing the rounds these days is Balensha, quite a maverick from what one hears about him. He apparently is somebody who is closest to being the pick of Gen Z for the next Prime Minister of Nepal. He's a former rapper and is now the mayor of Kathmandu. He made the transition into politics, became mayor. He fought the mayoral poll independently, not aligned with any party, so largely he is unscathed, untainted in the eyes of the protesters. He became Kathmandu's 15th mayor in 2022. In fact, he put out a statement today as well asking for peace to return and said, I request all of you, I actually wanted to come and participate with you in these protests, but because of the age bar that has been put by Gen Z for coming out on the streets, I'm not there with you physically, but I support your cause and now I want you to retreat in peace. Mr. Dahel, could Balensha, aka Balin, be the next Prime Minister of Nepal?
Look at I think it is not possible to accept all the stakeholders with a Balin name. I got the information from the Gen Z groups as well. They want the other guys. Some of the ex-chief justice name is in place, and some other civil society leaders' name also they are putting in the table. But there is no clear picture, and Balin himself is not want.
Okay, he himself does not want to take up that position. We'll see how things pan out, because right now, really very fluid situation. The violence may have temporarily halted, but what happens next, no one really at this point has any idea or even a roadmap for the next few days. For the time being though, all gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on the Buck Stops Here.